Hey everyone, I'm Matt Seitz. I'm a licensed psychologist here with the athletic department to talk with a couple student athletes here with the Gators experience on mental health. And we have a few interesting topics to discuss over the next few minutes. And I am here with
Tori Bates on the lacrosse team.
And I'm Skip Donald. I'm on the men's swimming and diving team.
Tori and Skip. Thanks for being here. So we are going to jump right in to talk today, one of our main topics about injury and mental health. And so obviously if you play a sport, probably going to get injured, right? And that's something that happens to a lot of our athletes. We see that injuries can often negatively impact mental health. So when someone's injured, we've seen increased risk of like depression, anxiety, sleep issues. And we also have seen vice versa. When their mental health is suffering, they're not sleeping well, they're stressed, they're anxious, they tend to be at higher rates of injury. So starting with Tori, can you talk a little about your own injury experience, what you've dealt with when it comes to injury and how that's impacted you?
Yeah, so over the last around 13 years of playing lacrosse, I've had 6 knee surgeries, a few meniscus, 1 ACL, and then just recently had a knee realignment surgery, basically prolonging me from getting a knee replacement, which is a surgery that you don't return to sports for. So I ended up medically releasing last year from the team, but still involved. But yet the knee injuries definitely got in the way of me playing the sport that I grew up on and loved.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear from Skip as well. But first for you, as the injuries got more and more severe, can you speak to the mental struggles that come with severe injuries and then medical retirement as well?
It's definitely a struggle, and it's very humbling because you kind of get your hopes up, you're finally back for another season, and then you get injured again. So it's kind of like that roller coaster of emotions, and fixing your mental health, finally getting to a point where you're happy again, and then kind of going back to the spot in your life that you didn't want to experience again. So it's definitely hard, but you get through it.
What about you, Skip? Have you experienced any serious injury in your career, and how's that impacted you?
Yeah, so over my 10 years in diving, I've had couple of broken fingers. I actually recently broke my back last year, and the struggles that come with that are very, very hard to get through, because when you're in a sport like diving that's very fearful and has a lot of anxiety and a lot of like performance factors of trying to be perfect for everyone and trying to show off, like it's certainly hard to want to get back out there. Just like when you have all these factors that feed into like, I'm injured, like my form will never be the same, or like my body's never going to be 100% again. Like, how do I get back into that? It definitely messes with your head a little bit. And for me personally, it got to the point where like, I don't know if I'm going to be the same. So like, why would I even try to get back out there? Was
there a time for you, Skip, where you thought about hanging it up and I've just been injured so much, I can't do this anymore?
I did. There were plenty of times. Well, last year especially, when I hurt my back, I didn't know if I was going to be able to recover from that, because there were times where I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sit down for a 5-minute period. I couldn't stand up for a 5-minute period. I had to keep my body like in motion pretty much, or else it would get too stiff to move. So there was definitely a time where I was like, there's no way I would come back to athletics. There's no way like I would be able to go headfirst in the water again and my back be able to like feel okay with that,
Yeah, absolutely. And then last thing for you, Skip, and I'll jump back to Tori. Do you feel like there is anything, as a man who was dealing with injury, did you feel at all that you needed to kind of suck it up or tough it out? Or
I did. I felt like a lot of times you see that men just, it's kind of like, oh, you have to build your strength up. Like, you have to hit the gym. You got to suck it up. You got to strengthen that so that you can get back out there, because a lot of people, like, they just get hurt or something happens and they hang it up because they don't know how to bounce back from that. And so doing all of my physical therapy and stuff, I just kept thinking like, I'm going to do all this physical therapy and like I might still not be able to come back. Like it's going to suck.
Yeah, what if I work hard for years and keep having, and that sounds like, unfortunately, Tori, that's what happened to you. It was the same type of injury 6 times?
Yeah, I tore my meniscus and cartilage repeatedly, and then my ACL.
So what was it like for you? Was it just, at what point did you say, I need to, I know you said you medically retired.
Yeah.
What was the final straw?
My junior year, I kind of got a little nudge and then was in pain for a while. I got a couple more MRIs, and then my athletic trainer was finally like, you're going to, in a couple years, not be able to walk. Like, you're not going to be able to run the same and, like, live the life that you want to in 10 years. Mm-hmm. So he kind of sat me down, like, had the hard conversation with me, making me realize, like, is this really what I'm going to put my body through when lacrosse isn't in my future in 20 years? Like, after 2 years, it's going to be over. After this year, it's over. So he kind of put that image in my mind and kind of allowed me to see that that's not what I do. Want to be able to run and live a life that I want to and not have the pain in my knee bothering me. So it's kind of what made me realize.
And as personal as you want to get, you said it was a struggle, it was difficult. I don't know about if you would say depressing.
Yeah.
So you would say it was depressing.
Yeah, I definitely went through and got very deep, I would say. I would say I'm still climbing my way out of it, like still figuring out how to deal with things or cope with still going to practice every day and watching everybody still play, knowing that I'll never play.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
I feel like that's got to be one of the, just sitting on the sidelines. I talk to so many student athletes and they're watching their diver friends do it.
Sitting on the sidelines is the worst thing. Watching everybody practice and you just have to sit there is probably the worst feelings when you are experiencing that.
Well, you said you're still crawling out of it, so it does sound like you're starting to see maybe the light at the end of the tunnel. What has been helpful, and what would you say to other injured athletes that has started to help you start to move on from this?
I think, honestly, there's just a whole bigger picture than the sport you're playing, and that's something that I've seen. I found something that I loved when I wasn't playing lacrosse, which is my internship. Like, that allowed me to realize that there is something else in the world that I do have a passion for and love for, which I didn't think was the case before that. All I wanted to do was play lacrosse. That was the thing I thought I loved most in life, when not playing allowed me to realize, like, there's so many more loves and passions that you can develop after lacrosse, and you are more than just your jersey. And
we say that all the time around here, right? You're more than an athlete. And I wonder how many times that's just lip service. Not accusing anyone of that, but when you are from the age of 3 or 4, I mean, did you play lacrosse since you were super young?
I started when I was 3.
So it's like we have these T-shirts, you're more than an athlete, but for like 15 years you've been doing one thing. And in our field we talk about identity foreclosure, where you've basically at 5 or 6 years old, you've foreclosed on all these other identities, social, spiritual, emotional, and you've just taken on this identity as an athlete. So I thought that what she had to say was great. I mean, for you, identity development, how injury messed with your identity. And
it was certainly something that I had to work on, because for 5 months I wasn't training. The only thing I was doing was going to class and going to rehab, and I'm someone who's very social. I like to hang out with all my friends. That's one of the things that drives me during practice, is just being with all my friends. And so when I wasn't able to do that, I had to find ways to entertain myself, because I would get so bored just sitting at home, I'd finish my schoolwork, and then I wouldn't have anything to do, and I can't just sit around and not do anything. I feel like I have to do something. So I'll just constantly get out of the house and go, to a coffee shop or meet new people and go and find a book to read or something, just to keep my mind activated, because I can't, it would drive me nuts to just sit at home and not do anything.
Yeah, and for both of you, you mentioned socializing. Would you say that social support was one thing that got you through your injuries?
Oh, certainly. There's been a lot of people that actually understood what I was going through, and there's been a lot of people that don't understand what I'm going through. And the people that didn't understand, I just got tired of explaining it, and it's hard to be friends with the people that don't support you. And so the people that would support me, they would actually talk to me and hang out with me and understand oh, he's social, he needs someone to hang out with, or stuff like that. So they would actually get behind me and do that stuff with me.
Yeah, Tori, anything to add to that?
I completely agree. It's the friends that we've had here and our teammates who understand have made it a lot easier, because they do help you do things to take your mind off of it when you can't do the thing that they're doing every single day that you're watching them do. So I definitely agree. At a social standpoint, it has helped when they get what you're going through or understand. I feel like doing that, explaining to people that don't understand, can kind of just get in your head more, because you are explaining a topic that they offer advice that's just completely more aggravating
Don't you
probably
love
than
when people
helping.
give you advice?
So,
Yeah.
I definitely think like surrounding yourself with like the friends and people that understand and are there for you like has helped more than.
Well, and I can't speak for Tori, but for myself, the dive community is not very big. So I have a lot of friends that are in other schools in the SEC and around the country, and that have gone through similar things that I've gone through, injury and depression and stuff like that. And when I had this 5-month period that I didn't do anything, I would have friends reach out and be like, "Hey, come travel, a couple hours to come see me and spend a weekend with me." And it was great because I would get out of the house and go do something. Change is what pretty much drove me doing something outside of my comfort zone.
So for anybody listening, I know it's so, I guess, simple, but I think we're social beings, and the way out of any mental health issue for me, depression, anxiety, really anything that I see student athletes struggle with, they almost always need people to help them out of that. Really, we can't do it on our own. So community, you hear about that all the time, but it sounds like both of you did find a lot of support from others. Now, on the flip side, without naming names, we get into a couple hot topics here. Do you feel like you've had teammates or coaches or folks in your community that did pressure you to get back out there and play because you're high-level athletes, maybe you're on scholarship, you're at Division I program, so whether this was high school, college, for either of you really, did you feel that there was a pressure from anyone to get back out there and push through your injury?
I got a coach that was much younger and much more of like a friend to me, who understood, who had gone through something like this himself, and so he helped me kind of take the baby steps and became more of a mentor instead of a coach, like more of on a friendly level, and he really helped me like see my potential, and like, hey, he would say things like, don't ever say that you can't do it, I know your back is like this, but we can modify it, along the way and get you to where you want to be. And it was one of the best things ever, because I certainly felt like I had a chip on my shoulder. I wanted to prove that I was better than where I was at and that I was coming back stronger. And he helped me, I did well at SECs. I made my first NCAAs. Like, he really got me to where I wanted to be. So it was certainly, having a coach like that who understands you, it really switched up my perspective.
It's really more on the positive side. You had a coach that really has.
It was much more positive, yeah.
Yeah. What about for you? It doesn't have to be coach. Just anybody that has, do you feel this pressure to get back on that field, court, pitch, whatever sport you're in?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I felt any pressure from my coaches. I would agree that they were more uplifting. One of my coaches last year tore her ACL in college, so she kind of understood that aspect of it coming back from knee injury. So she worked with me when I was coming back and helped me, and all my coaches and trainers and everyone kind of had my back and was supporting me, since it has been like a process from my freshman year here till like present. So I was kind of never not going through it. So they had my back and was kind of lifting me up when I needed it. I think I almost felt more pressure from myself to get back than I received from my coaches.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's some internalized pressure there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certainly having, a chip on my shoulder, I felt the pressure to like, oh, now I want to prove to like my old coach, and I want to prove to my parents that it wasn't like a waste of time. I wasted a whole year of my college career and they've only seen me compete like a couple of times. Like, I want to prove that like it's much more fun and it's much more like elite and within myself, like that I can kind of hang, I can be in that situation and have the pressure of the meet and not care, just like kind of float through it instead of feeling super anxious about, oh, is my back going to be able to handle it and all that kind of stuff.
It sounds like you both have been through remarkable journeys, and I think you're both super courageous and strong. So thanks for chatting about that. As we kind of tie the knot on this conversation, we could discuss what to do, in youth sport and what we should do, like raising children in terms of maybe broadening their identity. We don't have time for that discussion, but for current college athletes, what are some things that they can do to maybe broaden that identity of not just being, like we said, an athlete? So what are some things they can start doing now for before or when they get injured, because it's going to happen? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Skip. What can they start doing to prepare for that?
I think a big thing is just communication. If you're not feeling it one day, communicate with your coach, communicate with your teammates, let them know like maybe not if they're struggling right then, but like they can kind of feel it, because like I was kind of feeling it previously, and then it just kind of hit me, and I never really communicated when I was feeling it. So if you talk to your teammates and you talk to, maybe your coaches later on, and just let them know like, hey, some things are more difficult, some things are more mental, like I'm gonna need to take the baby steps, and then maybe they can either prolong or kind of eliminate that injury just by maybe taking a break, maybe having a day off, recovering on a different level rather than just kind of pushing through it.
Yeah, I agree. I also think having like different hobbies and passions, because a lot of us do resort to our sport when we need to like get rid of steam or to take our mind off things. So when you don't have that, it's kind of like, what do I do now? And you kind of feel stuck. So I think developing and finding those other hobbies and passions that you enjoy allow you to have that backup when you aren't playing your sport, or just need a distraction from your sport when it's not giving you a positive
And to Skip's point about taking a day off, that is a hard it's a hard line, kind of a hard balance, because as you said, sometimes people can escape in their sports. We don't always want to remove or withdraw or have people leave their sport because that sport is a positive influence for them, but at the same time, when it's breaking down their bodies and their minds, sometimes we need to take a step away. And when we don't have those other passions or hobbies or interests or social life, then it gets a little bit, you can see why it gets more depressing. Yeah. So, in my field, people always talk about, you don't want to do too much escaping or avoidance, but I think you both said earlier in this conversation that distractions were helpful for you in those injuries. And I would just say to the listeners as well, distractions can absolutely be healthy, right? Good. We can't escape, right? There's problematic maladaptive coping, substance use, relationship with food, other kind of toxic behaviors. But we got to have some things outside of our sport to love, because someday the sport's going to be over, voluntarily or involuntarily. And so I also want to talk about that career transition. You guys are both seniors or super seniors, and so even without the injury, there's career transition. Has that been a challenge for you guys to think about life beyond your sport, not even just injury related, but what am I doing with my life after I graduate?
Yeah, it's tough to think about because we've been doing it for so long, 10 plus years. I've only been in diving 10 years. Tori's been in lacrosse for, like she said, since she was a little girl. So it's tough to think that, like, what are we supposed to do out there if it's not pro sports? And so I still don't know. I'm still in the mix of things. I'm learning about different things, reading about different things, different career paths, what I want to do. And a lot of people that are in sport kind of choose a job that's still related to sport in some way because they have that connection. But it's hard to think that, you don't know what to do because your whole life has been athletics. And so I still don't know. I'm still in the mix.
Any anxiety about your future?
Not really. I think that what's gonna come is gonna come to me. I'm just kind of waiting for the flow of things. I'm not really sure. I don't think that I'll get out there and not know what to do. I think I'm just gonna like learn in the process of it and like when it begins. So
can you work with me and teaching me how to do that? I mean, like, hey, come work with my clients, because you're just whatever comes, whatever happens. I wish I could have said that at 21, 22.
Well, because I used to be that way, and it was hard to think that like you can't force anything. So once I learned that, because I tried to force things, I tried to like push through certain things, and a lot of that was athletic related, and so that is what caused injury. And you can't think of it. You can't. Life's not like athletics, and you're gonna have different obstacles that are gonna be similar to like injury. So you can't. I've just come to terms with like if I force it, then nothing good's going to come out of it. So I just have to like let it flow and let it come to me, and then I'll figure it out along the way.
Well, there's a whole nother topic, anxiety. I want to hear from Tori, but you're talking about mindfulness basically, Skip. Like, anxiety is either future focused or past focused, right? You've heard it probably said it's hard to be anxious and be in the present moment. So you are learning, and sounds like quite well, how to just stay present and be mindful of what's going on. And Tori, just as strong mentally, you're just not anxious at all about your future?
Yeah. Right now, a little bit of anxiety just because I have a few days to make a decision, but I have wanted to go to healthcare for a while because of all my injuries and being surrounded by doctors. So I originally wanted to do PA. So that's what I wanted to do. And then I kind of just impulsively switched my mind to OT, applied to school, and then got in. So I'm kind of deciding if I want to do that or PA. So that anxiety there. But
well, I have more anxiety than you guys, so that's okay. It was just a little snippet into the minds of Tori and Skip with lacrosse and swimming and diving, and appreciate y'all being open and vulnerable. Again, I'm Matt, with a psychologist with the athletic department, and hope you guys enjoyed listening to us.
Thank you. Go Gators.
thank
Go
you.
Gators.
Go Gators.